A Republican just humiliated Donald Trump by accidentally exposing the terrifying truth behind Trump's newest power grab. We're talking secret laws, mass deportations, and a potential plan to suspend one of the Constitution's most sacred rights. And trust us, it gets darker from here, because it all starts with this shocking report straight from the heart of Trump's legal war zone.
A special report right now on the core rights and liberty protections the Trump administration has been both attacking and very brazenly testing in the highest courts in the land. The push begins with Trump's mass deportation agenda, the people being hauled on and off planes and sent to various parts and corners of the world, but it doesn't necessarily stop there. This has actually drawn a string of losses in federal courts, rebukes from multiple judges, orders to bring back, sometimes wrongly, deported individuals. There's been the Supreme Court losses in the early rounds. You're probably familiar with some of that, but as Donald Trump keeps pushing, we now have this standoff between him and the courts, as the Wall Street Journal reports. And this is the current baseline. And these clashes already go beyond even the tense standoffs over foreign detainee rules during the war on terror. We're past where we were then under Trump in the second term. And the president's challenge is to the law and the Constitution in a way that could go even farther than those clashes. Indeed, Trump's number 2 official in the White House, Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, has asserted, he says, the administration is mulling ways to suspend the core, long-standing liberty right against unlawful or unlimited government detention powers that they claim they're already looking at how to suspend habeas corpus.
Donald Trump's administration didn't just flirt with authoritarianism, they sent it flowers, took it to dinner, and tried to move it into the White House. The courts have been slapping down Trump's immigration agenda left and right, but now we're entering darker territory. Stephen Miller, yes, that guy who always looks like he just crawled out of a haunted wax museum, is openly floating plans to suspend habeas corpus. That's right, the basic right to not be thrown in jail forever with no trial. Buckle up, because the next clip shows Miller doubling down, and the reporter, he brings the heat.
The Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not.
That's their stance. They're, quote, actively looking at it, and then he adds a kind of a bluster toward the courts. Be careful, if you don't do the, quote, right thing, which means agree with Trump on just about everything, maybe they'll suspend this right. Now, in our special report right now, I want to be very clear about this baseline. In any era in American history, claims to suspend that core right of the Constitution are a huge deal. That Latin phrase, habeas corpus, is one of the most important and vital rights that people have in their dealings with the government. The founders were clear that that right would operate in the Constitution, so no politician and no Congress can repeal it, and it would operate permanently to limit government powers against the people. That is the baseline.
That was pure facts. No fluff, no spin. Just a straight up civics lesson that Stephen Miller clearly never sat through. The right to habeas corpus is not optional. It's not some seasonal policy you can turn off like Christmas lights just because you feel like going full dictator. The reporter laid it out, plain and loud. This isn't left versus right. This is democracy versus tyranny. And guess what? He's not done, because what comes next pulls back the curtain even more on just how far Trump's team is willing to go.
And while, yes, there are times where you might have an actual emergency or a world war, that would also be enumerated. You can't just suspend the right because you don't like dissent or you have a different immigration policy. It could only be done, suspended in the case of wartime invasion or emergency public safety. That's what it says in the Constitution. It means something good. It means most presidents have never even gone near suspending it or even talking about how they could.
Now, let's be real. From day one, it was painfully obvious that Donald Trump had one target in his crosshairs: the courts. Because when you're a wannabe dictator with 91 felony charges, the last thing you want is a judge telling you no. Trump promised to be a ruthless on day one. He's ignored court rulings, he's steamrolled precedent, and even when his own Supreme Court picks slap him down, he just shrugs, pouts, and moves on to the next power grab. But now his allies are trying to take it even further. They want Trump to have the power to flat out ignore court orders, like some orange emperor with a Sharpie. And believe it or not, even some Republicans are nervous about this one. Yes, the Trump cultists are still drooling over his every word, but not everyone on the red team is drinking the Kool-Aid. Case in point, Nebraska Representative Mike Flood, who suddenly grew a spine at a recent town hall. And here's what that looked like.
Town hall erupts at GOP rep's confession about Trump's beautiful bill. A Republican congressman faced intense backlash from his constituents after admitting in a town hall that he hadn't actually read crucial parts of Donald Trump's big beautiful bill. I'm not going to hide the truth. This provision was unknown to me when I first voted for that. Rep. Mike Flood said in response to an audience member's question about proposed measures that would make it easier for the U.S. government to defy courts.
You can practically hear the record scratch when Rep. Mike Flood admitted he voted for Trump's big beautiful bill without even reading the part that lets the government ignore court orders. Seriously, this isn't a Yelp review. It's legislation that shreds the Constitution like it's a Mar-a-Lago napkin. And now his own constituents are fuming because, surprise, people don't love the idea of living under a dictator-like regime signed off by a guy who didn't read the fine print. But here's the kicker. This little disaster, it's far from over.
The issue of court orders was not the only bone of contention between Flood and the audience during Tuesday's town hall in Seward, Nebraska, with other attendees grilling him on everything from prospective Medicaid cuts to changes in the way the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is administered. And we can see all of that in which Rep. Mike Flood was challenged in this clip right here.
Can you please tell us why you voted to approve a budget bill that includes Section 70302, which effectively prohibits federal courts from enforcing contempt orders? Please let me read my question. I only got 30 seconds. Which would then allow current and future administrations to ignore those contempt orders by removing the enforcement capabilities.
I do not agree with that section that was added to that bill. This provision was unknown to me when I voted for the bill.
Unknown to you, Mike? The guy voted to hand Trump a get out of contempt card and then says, oops, I missed that part. Now, I'm not out here trying to hand out trophies to Republican lawmakers, but let's be honest. This big, beautiful bill was designed to be unreadable. It was thousands of pages, dropped in the middle of the night, and rushed through like a clearance sale at Bed Bath & Beyond. That was the strategy. Confuse the public, blindside the media, and pass the most anti-democratic garbage you can before anyone notices. And now, even Republicans are realizing they just helped build a bomb and forgot to read the manual. Want to know how bad it is? Even in the Senate, Trump's own party is starting to panic. And trust me, when you've got billionaires pressuring Congress to rewrite the rulebook in their favor, there's always one person who sees straight through the scam, and that person, Greg Casar. And he did not hold back in this next takedown.
Elon Musk and Donald Trump are in total agreement that they want to have this bill give billionaires a tax break. They're in total agreement that they want this bill to have a $25 billion contract for Trump's, quote, Golden Dome, where Elon Musk is the front runner to get those $25 billion. It seems the area of disagreement is whether they want to kick 10 or 15 or 20 million Americans off their health care. What people at home need to know is that we don't need to give billionaires a penny. We don't need to kick anyone off their health care, and we don't need to give Elon Musk another sweetheart contract. So we should be fighting to block this bill, period, and not be distracted by Elon Musk and Donald Trump having little disagreements about how many Americans they want to let die just so that they can get themselves a sweetheart contract or a tax cut.
Greg Casar just said the quiet part loud, and thank God someone finally did. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are out here playing billionaire Hunger Games with your healthcare. They're fighting over how many millions of Americans to kick off coverage. Not if they should, but how many. Meanwhile, Trump's pushing for a $2 billion Golden Dome project, and guess who's at the front of the line for that cash? Elon freaking Musk. This isn't a policy disagreement, it's a corporate heist dressed up as a budget bill. And trust me, this billionaire backroom drama, it's not over yet.
Well, I mean, I just think also when you think about what chaos was ignited through all these cuts by DOJ, cuts that, as Christine just pointed out, weren't nearly as deep, at least when it comes to savings, as he claimed he would create, but yet had this massive ripple effect through the federal workforce and so many aspects of American life and economies on the local level. Congress is out, right now. Lawmakers are back home in their districts. Let's talk more about this big, beautiful bill, because GOP Congressman Mike Flood of Nebraska, he had a town hall yesterday, and he made this admission about that piece of legislation. Take a listen.
This provision was unknown to me when I voted for the bill. Medicaid cuts. We cannot and will not cut Social Security, and we, for the most part, protected Medicaid.
So it's already passed the House. He's saying, this provision was hidden in the bill. How concerned are you that Senate Republicans may not take the time to read everything that's in the bill?
These guys, they either act ignorant or they lie. This congressman, my esteemed colleague, he knows that this is the biggest Medicaid cut in American history. What was discovered right before they passed the bill is that this is also the biggest Medicare cut in American history. So we can't let these Republican members of Congress go and lie to their own constituents. That's why I, a progressive Democrat from Central Texas, have flown to Arizona, have flown to Colorado to go speak in Republican-held districts, answer people's questions, and tell the truth. Because Republican members of Congress either entirely skip out on town halls or, like you just saw on video there, just make stuff up.
Greg Casar just torched the entire GOP playbook in under a minute, and he's not wrong. Republicans are either flat out lying to their voters or pretending they missed the biggest Medicaid and Medicare cuts in US history. Mike Flood claims he didn't see it in the bill. Please, the bill was engineered to hide that stuff, and now that the damage is public, they're all suddenly confused. Casar's literally flying into red districts to do the job Republicans won't. Tell people the truth and buckle up, because what comes next is a critical piece of the puzzle.
But he is facing his constituents. Let's pivot to the Bitcoin conference. President Trump has the power to influence this market. The Trump family has actively promoted their cryptocurrencies in this second term, leading many to openly question the ethical and the legal ramifications of this move. Vice President Vance at one point owned up to $500,000 in Bitcoin. Should they be there at this conference? Are there adequate guardrails?
What people watching at home need to know is that while working class Americans are being threatened with losing their health care, Trump and the members of his family are cashing in big time on these crypto scams. Trump has made millions, if not billions of dollars on these crypto scams. Now, 40% of his wealth is in cryptocurrency, all basically built up since he won back the White House, and he's basically put a for sale sign in front of the White House. So if you are a foreign government that wants to influence Trump and his family, just slip some money in Trump's pocket. If you are a tax cheat that wants a pardon from Trump, just slip some crypto money in Trump's pocket. But if you're a veteran that needs access to health care, or you're a kid that can't afford school lunch, then you get nothing. This is another example of billionaires get everything under Trump and working class people get screwed. This could be the biggest corruption scandal in American history, and they're out there in Las Vegas bragging about it. It is so blatant.
Trump turning the White House into a crypto casino is somehow the least subtle scandal in American history, and yet they're out in Vegas acting like it's just good business. While everyday Americans are losing healthcare, Trump's shoveling shady crypto into his pockets, peddling influence like it's merch at a rally. 40% of his wealth, now in digital coins, magically after retaking power. Yeah, totally normal. Greg Casar nailed it. Under Trump, billionaires get tax breaks, kids get empty lunch trays, and just wait, because what's coming next? The pardon pipeline is about to be exposed.
Meantime, let's talk about those pardons from the Chrisleys, reality stars, who were found guilty of fraud and tax evasion, to the Trump-supporting former sheriff who was convicted of a cash for badges scheme, to the former nursing home exec who had pleaded guilty to tax crimes, then pardoned after his mother attended a Trump fundraiser that cost $1 million to attend, according to the New York Times. Congressman, what do you make of these pardons, and what message do they send?
This is a moment where the Democratic Party needs to point out to working class voters where we've been losing their trust, to point out just how corrupt Donald Trump has been. Well, he's jacking up your prices at the grocery store and making everybody pay for his tariffs. He's cashing in.
Trump's pardon list looks less like justice and more like a guest list for a tacky Mar-a-Lago gala. Reality TV fraudsters, corrupt sheriffs, millionaire tax cheats who just so happened to buy a table at Trump's $1 million fundraiser. All forgiven, as long as the check clears. Greg Casar said it best. While you're paying more at the grocery store, Trump's turning the presidency into a luxury scam for his rich friends. And this is the moment for Democrats to remind working class voters Trump isn't on your side, he's on Venmo. If you made it this far, make sure to subscribe, because the orange circus is only getting wilder. And in the next video, let's just say Trump's team gets caught doing something so ridiculous, you'll swear it was written by a parody account. You do not want to miss it.